Dallas has always been known for its vibrant and diverse music scene with a range of venues that supports blues, country, rock, hip-hop, and so much more. My guest today has been a walking encyclopedia when it comes to live music in DFW for decades. Let's welcome Artistic Director at the Kessler Theater and Longhorn Ballroom, my friend Jeffrey Liles. Hi, Jeff.
How do you do?
Thank you for coming and visiting with us today. We appreciate that.
Oh, I love it. I'm honored.
So, I read somewhere that you are motivated to create, nurture, and sustain a sturdy platform for the North Texas creative community. How did you come about with that?
Well, it's really the only thing in my skill set. It's the only thing I know how to do. I've always loved music since I was a little kid, and I always loved hanging out with musicians, learned how to play guitar when I was a little kid. And that's how I got started in this business. And I just love being around musicians, love being around the community.
So Jeff, why do you think that Dallas continues to be a home for all kinds of musicians? And I've always said that DFW is a major hub for that.
Well, it's probably because of where it's geographically located in the middle of the country. You know, it's easy to get to New York. It's easy to get to Los Angeles. You know, it's a good spot right in the middle of America. You know,
you are in the greatest position in the world to be at the Kessler as well at the Longhorn Ballroom, and they're two very different venues, but the history of the venues is quite unique. Tell us about that.
Well, when we first got the Kessler back in 2010, it had been empty for 17 years. It was a movie theater back in the 40s and 50s. It went through periods where it was a church, where it was an upholstery shop with people in there with sewing machines.
Wow.
You know, it's gone through this whole, all these different phases. And Edwin Cabanis, the guy who actually bought the building and rebooted the Kessler, originally got the building because his wife teaches kids dance lessons, ballet and tap and jazz dance. And so he wanted to move her into a much bigger facility than the shop that she had there in Oak Cliff. And it's, that he first got it to be a dance studio for kids.
I didn't know that. Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. That's crazy. I love being from Oak Cliff. I know you do too. And many don't know that there are really great places to hear live music on this side of the Trinity River, if you will.
Yeah.
Tell me, why is the Kessler Longhorn Ballroom, why are those spaces so special?
Well, the center of gravity for music in Dallas has jumped all over town for the last 4 or 5 decades. When I was a teenager, it was on Northwest Highway. That's where all the rock and roll clubs were. And then for a while, it was on Lower Greenville Avenue. In the 80s, you had the Arcadia Theater and Poor David's Pub, and Tango and Nick's Uptown and all those venues on Lower Greenville. And then, of course, Deep Ellum. Deep Ellum has become a huge center of gravity for music. But Oak Cliff also had the Bronco Bowl, which was pretty much the best live music venue in the history of our city.
It really was, yes.
The Bronco Bowl was extraordinary, and it got a lot of people to Oak Cliff. It closed down, obviously, about 25 years ago. But when Edwin told me, he first called me and said he was doing a place in Oak Cliff, that's the first thing that popped into my head was, wow, maybe it's another Bronco Bowl. Maybe it's another really special room that brings people across the river, like you say.
Yeah. When I was a kid and I used to come across the Trinity right there at 8th Street, I used to always see on the marquee, at the Longhorn, you see Johnny Taylor or somebody like that. And I was too young to even go in there, but I recently went into the space, and it's just so much history when you walk in. It's a really special venue, and I'm so glad that you guys took on that responsibility to reopen the space, because a lot of people don't know how special it is.
This is actually the second time I've worked at the Longhorn. I worked there in the 80s when I was 23 years old.
Wow.
The guy who owned it then hired me to be the booking agent in about 1986, I think it was. And also, you mentioned Johnny Taylor. When I was a teenager, I used to mow Johnny Taylor's lawn every week. He lived in this big, beautiful mansion in Preston Trails out in far north Dallas.
Wow.
And that was right when he had Disco Lady was his big hit. Then the Longhorn was still kind of the way it used to be. It was kind of a country roadhouse place that had soul acts and had punk rock acts and all that, and had peanut shells on the floor and people gambling in the bathroom, and it was wild. If we had a fight, we'd call the police, and the police wouldn't even show up. They weren't coming there, they weren't going to risk it. Now it's more like a museum.
Yeah.
It feels the way Edwin has redone it. It's got this really nice, austere vibe to it. You know, people are really respectful, and they're not going to fight, and it's real polished. You know,
it's very different now.
It looks like the Dallas Museum of Art or something. You know, it's really beautiful.
All right, Jeffrey, thank you so much for sharing all of that wonderful information about the Kessler and Longhorn. We appreciate it.
Sure.
And guess what, you guys? We're going to have a complete list of upcoming concerts at the Kessler as well as Longhorn Ballroom. We will have all of that information on our website at CW33.com.